Tonight we keep Sebastian Rogers front and center. This video doesn't accuse, it verifies. As you watch each clip, I'll name what's on screen and give the responsible framing, especially where the stream leans on polygraphs, body language tells, and text AI deception scores. Allegations stay labeled as allegations until supported by official records.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
What did you say about a drone?
It's been reported that some of these online trolls have even flown drones over the family properties.
He went to the horse farm where I work and flew his drone around there and was videoed himself whistling at horses on the property and everything.
On screen, the host asks about a drone and a guest alleges trolls flew one over family property, even whistling at horses. This is presented as a report, not a police-confirmed fact. Without documents or reputable coverage, we keep this tagged allegation.
In tears, almost. So, Susan's ready. We have an interesting live here. Not a whole lot of content tonight. Most people have already watched these interviews. What I did was submit the interview links with Sebastian's stepfather, his mother, and Seth Rogers. And Susan is on tonight. Welcome, Susan. Welcome, Eva.
Thank you.
On screen, the host says there isn't much new content and that tonight is about analysis of existing interviews. That means we're reviewing commentary and opinions, not unveiling new evidence.
Susan, why don't you give everyone your background and what you do?
Sure. So I'm a human behavior expert. I specialize not only just as a practitioner in behavioral analysis, I actually have a master's degree in it. So unlike some of the other BLF, body language experts, that are also trained, but in my background, it's more academic and also as a practitioner in the forensic science of behavioral analysis. So it's a little bit different than some of the other folks out there. Been a trial consultant for almost over 20 years. I cover pretty much every high profile case there is. I've done over 2,500 national appearances, and I know you guys have done a lot too. So anyway, I seem to be the kind of go-to person when it comes to detecting whether somebody's being truthful or not.
Interesting. And we put out the information on Twitter initially when you gave the analysis. We haven't shared the PDF. I have that ready to go. We know how divisive this case has gotten. And like I always say, opinion should evolve with new data. You're not stale on your education. It sounds like you have continued education. In fact, you were traveling today for that. So you are constantly learning about this field, yeah?
On screen, a guest presents credentials and says they can detect deception. Expert reads can be informative, but nonverbal lie detection is not proof. Treat this as opinion, not a verdict.
All of these things, there are clusters that are associated with deception. So that's what I want to speak to, and which is what I pulled up here in the language. Now, this is a statement analysis report, and any of those what I'll call the deception sleuths, I think this would be really helpful for you guys to even do yourself. You can go on to Deceptio AI. And Mark McClish is the one who developed this with an IP guy that developed this app, whom I also have been in contact with many times. And there are certain words and phrases and how it is used throughout text that give us insight into how that person is actually processing information. So, for example, if someone were to make a comment about a car, and then later on they called it a vehicle. Well, that would be interesting because we'd want to know, why did they change the language, the terminology? Could one be the getaway car and the vehicle's one somebody else drove or picked them up afterwards? So this is where we really start to look at language, word for word. And this is all from the person's subconscious. So, they're just rapid firing off a conversation, and, and every single word can be analyzed. So in Deceptio AI, I use this a lot in baseline. So for example, if I have a person that reaches out to me and says, I want to talk to you because I have a case that I'd like to share with you, which is my own personal story, and I'm being accused of being deceptive, or whatever it is, I get a ton of them. Little do they know, I run that story right through Deceptio AI, because I want to know if their story they're telling me, just on the language itself, where do they score? And a lot of times, especially with something like this, a 52, I would have turned around and sent it back to him and said, okay, you ready to tell me the real story?
On screen, an AI text tool scores statements for deception, and a low score is framed as suspicious. Text-only deception scoring, scan-style methods, aren't validated above chance. Use as discussion, not evidence.
Information within here that is really revealing, and I would really suggest you pop that up there, because I think it's super interesting for people to know what I'm looking at, and why people, for example, most people, well, when they're truthful, you will use contractions. They'll say, I didn't do it, I wasn't there, instead of saying, I was not there, and they didn't use a contracture. That is a very formal way of disguising the truth. So there is these nuances in language that we analyze. And if you can imagine, like if on my team, I have a large team of experts that are qualified to do this, and that is that when I'm looking at a statement, this is just kind of a baseline from this Deceptio, but if you can imagine like a crime scene, right? We see them on some of these Law and Order shows, right? And you see all the pictures and all the lines, and you got them all kind of connected, and who's connected to what. That is what statement analysis looks like.
On screen, examples like did not versus didn't are flagged as deception indicators. Single wording quirks are non-diagnostic, formality, dialect, and interview setting can explain them.
Pretty cool. The analysis noted present tense verbs like
Yep.
hear, see, smell, while recalling past events. And in your experience, how reliable is that as a
And
deception
that's very powerful.
versus
That's powerful.
trauma-based memory? Yeah, versus trauma-based memory recall.
Well, smell is something that you're smelling in the present tense, right? Not past. Like I smelt this. Okay. Let me give you an example. I was sitting through the Casey Anthony trial. I was there the whole time. I did multiple hits on that one. And there was a point, and I'm going to bring this to home to you because you can get it. There was a point where there was an expert that was talking about the smell of the human decomposition that was in the trunk. Now, I'm going to ask your viewers out there, if a mother had heard that an expert was talking about the most grotesque thing, which is, the human decomposition of her daughter in the trunk of a car, what do you think her emotions would be? That's a question to you guys.
Eva, you followed that case, and that's your home case here that you were following.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, devastated, hysterical, and tears. Everything that you would expect a mom to be.
Right, exactly. So what she exhibited on her facial expression, and I sat right there, right on the side of her, saw her right there. She showed a micro expression of disgust. She went like this. Okay. Now,
Wow.
Okay, that told me bringing her into recall of the odor created a psychophysiological response, which is one of the channels within the 6 channels. It was on point right within that same microsecond. So you can then correlate that expression to that content at that exact same moment. See how it works? So you have to correlate. There's a correlation. So back to this one, when you use the word smell, smell is in present tense. Okay, so people that speak in present tense of a situation, this is where deception comes in, because when you're talking about something that had happened or that you recalled, you're going to speak to it in past tense. I smelt something bad, rather than I smell something bad. That's in present tense.
On screen, using present tense, smell, when recalling the past is called a powerful cue. In real language, tense shifts happen under stress and storytelling. Alone, This is a low confidence cue.
I wanted to run this through first. Now, I just want you to know that's only one channel of 6 channels you look at. So the algorithm that I'm looking at when I'm watching behavior, just kind of give you a little background. I'm looking at what we call a 3-2-7. I'm looking for 3 indicators and at least 2 channels within the 6 channels, which can combine facial expressions. It could be the voice, the content, that whether their interactional style, their body language. There's multiple areas that we're looking at, and there's 27 points of interest that are only proven, and I want to really stress this, that are only proven to be deceptive. Anything outside of that, that is the research, guys. That's the only one. I mean, globally, when we're looking at this from high stake situations, high stake lies, not just subjective analysis on so-called body language analysis, which absolutely drives me nuts, because most of them, if you do some research on them, have absolutely no academic background. They've read books, they watch videos, and all of a sudden they pull out certain elements and boom, they think they're a body language expert, okay? I see it all the time. So that from a behavioral sciences background, as someone that's been trained not only just forensically, but also as an academic, we need to raise the bar on how to do this stuff, because what we say to people matters. How we instruct people matters. And they take this information, they start to applying it to other things that they see. And what if they're wrong? You know, I mean, they know some stuff, but they don't know how to do. And I'll tell you why. There's only 16 of us globally that are certified and licensed master trainers. That's it in the globe.
In this analysis, which section of the transcript raised the strongest deception flags to you personally, Susan?
On screen, a structured 6-channel, 27-indicator system is presented as research-backed. Clustering cues can organize thinking, but meta-analyses show lie detection from behavior is only modestly above chance. Present as analysis, not determination.
Okay, so now let's go to mom. So I'm looking at 52 muscles in her face. Okay, so I'm a facial action coder. What does that mean? That means that I know what muscles have to fire in your face to create a certain emotion, right? Sadness, happiness, anger, disgust, contempt, etc. Now, when I hear her give her story and she's talking, I want to ask you a question. Do you see any grief muscles in her forehead? Those are little horizontal lines that come across here. This is what we call an AU, action unit. When a person is sad or show grief, their corners of their eyebrows will come up. You watch her eyebrows. They never move. They're frozen in space. They never change. So what I had to consider, does she have Botox? Does she have Botox in her forehead to where they don't move? And that is a consideration. So then you look at the lower region of the face. Now I'm going to be looking for this muscle right here to lift up and create a chin boss. This would go in correlation with the eyebrows coming up. Okay, that's true sadness and grief, and it'll cause these horizontal lines right here. That's the inner corner. Now, when somebody, sometimes you'll see outer corners too. That's another AU, action unit. There is nothing here, and there is nothing hardly here. So she has in a place, so either she could have consideration, is she medicated, is she on Valium or something that would slow her motor movements down to where she doesn't show the facial expressions of emotions that you would have found consistent with sadness and grief and despair. She was fairly consistent all the way through and never really changed. So that was her baseline. So the question is, when you're talking about something that's so emotional, you are going to see these muscles fire. It's impossible for it not to, because they're connected to the facial nerve and the brain. They all work together as a system. When you're talking about something sad and you say you're upset about it, you're going to show those muscles. It's involuntary. You can't fake it to make it. So the question to me is, why are those muscles not firing? And why are those grief muscles not firing? That's the big question here. With or without Botox, you'll see one eyebrow pop up higher than the other. It's asymmetry. Happens every time. Go back and look at Anthony Weiner. You can see it right there. It's once you've been trained properly, you can't unsee it. So she didn't show any expressions in her forehead. Period. End of story. No movement in her eyebrows. Nothing. Now, I have to combine both upper and lower face so then I can get a true picture. So what I'm looking for is that downward turn. There was a moment where she would cry. There she'd get emotional. I want to look for the chin boss coming up and causing this wrinkling here. And when somebody cries, you're going to see this maybe a stretch here and then a downturn, depending on her facial structure. Then I could tell you. But overall, and I think that every mom that is out there.
On screen, the guest points to grief muscles and minimal eyebrow/chin movement, with Botox/medication noted as caveats. Emotional display varies widely and can be blunted by meds, fatigue, culture, or repetition. Absence of a micro-cue is not equal to deception. Log this as a non-diagnostic observation.
Questions from the chat. They asked which video or interview you analyzed of Seth. I'm putting it up on the screen. It was the one done off of Court TV. What's your take on Seth's? He went on Nancy Grace to take a polygraph. First time around, his meds interfered with that process. He had to take it again. But I'm more interested in your opinion because it's not your field, I guess. What's your opinion on him denying TBI, the polygraph test? So he's, TBI went to both mom and stepdad. They took the TBI analysis polygraph, but Seth refuses to. What's your take on that?
He could be skeptical. Does he have any other issues within his background? And if he is taking medication, was he on? Is he a drug user or has been a drug user? All of those things. First of all, you're not supposed to do any sort of analysis when a person is on any sort of med. You need to have that ahead of time because it is going to affect how you're going to your motor movements, all of that. I
don't think they would be good and sufficient to me, I guess, but go ahead.
What you and I would do is not what everybody would do. Not everyone that grieves is going to grieve the same either. So that's one thing you have to consider. So when I'm even looking at mom and stepdad, I could say, mom doesn't show the emotion that I would have considered as being, I'm not seeing any sort of the facial expressions that are showing sadness and grief and despair. I mean, do I find that odd? Yeah, I do find that odd. Okay. But is that enough? So it isn't. And that's the main thing that I want to get across is that it is not just because you're looking at the language or just because he didn't take the polygraph isn't a sign of deception. There are other reasons why. It could be even the interviewer. I'm sorry to say, it could be an interviewer allegedly took a polygraph and passed. Now, dad hasn't taken one.
Well, people in the chat are saying, so I just want to stop here so we can, again, get grounded. So I want to clarify. When I said that he hasn't taken one, that is the conversation from Chris Proudfoot to my ears. Whether or not he's taken one, people are pointing out he may have taken one. We have no official confirmation from law enforcement that I know of that he's taken it, besides him maybe saying it or, so this is hearsay. A lot of this stuff that I've conveyed is hearsay, and I don't know if it's true for the folks in the chat. I, on that first YouTube, was conveying what he said. So I just want to clarify that piece. I will also say that as critical as I am of Seth and his behavior,
On screen, discussion of who did or didn't take a polygraph and whether meds interfere. Polygraphs have contested accuracy. Taking or refusing one isn't reliable proof of truthfulness. Treat polygraph talk as context, not evidence.
I did look at all this because I mentioned to you prior to getting on this. Yes, I'm very familiar with this case because I cannot disclose because I have an NDA, but I'm very familiar with this case and have been working this case. So I can't give you some information that I already know why I know it.
I, on that first YouTube, was conveying what he said. So I just want to clarify that piece. I will also say that as critical as I am of Seth and his behavior, I am also critical of Katie and her behavior and Chris. One of the things that struck me is, why not tell the world that a search warrant was executed a year after Sebastian went missing? And more importantly for me, after that came out, it was learned that Katie lied to people around her about it. She had a brand new phone number. As a tech guy, I don't understand that part, because when police seize your phone, they don't seize your phone number. They have access to the back end of Verizon or AT&T to get those records. So why not just move your SIM over or move your service over to the new phone when they seize it? Instead, she called people from the new number and said, I got a new number. I got a new phone. My phone broke. So that already sets a baseline for lying for me. I know there's talk about, well, you said this and it's not true. I said what was true as far as I understood it from Chris Proudfoot's mouth. That's the best I can do, right? If people want to question if it's true.
On screen, the guest mentions an NDA, and the host repeatedly labels relayed details as hearsay and acknowledges bias risks. That's proper hygiene. Anything not backed by official records or reputable reporting stays unverified.
Have to do this. It's not something you're
What
going to.
part about these are you can't anticipate the calls and when they're going to come in and cut you off. Who do we have on the line?
Yeah, my name's Carl.
Hi, Carl.
Yeah, I'm not really interested in the analysis part, but let's just look at the date that Sebastian went missing. Are you aware of that?
February 26th.
I don't work with on dates or times and that stuff. Nope, that's not my work.
I said February 26th, right? I mean, February 25th, he came home and then he was reported missing on the 26th.
He went missing 8 years to the very day that Katie filed for divorce from Seth. What do you think the odds of that are?
Coincidence.
Yeah, I don't think so. I really don't.
It's exactly what I've been talking about. We form an opinion, we find one thing, we got a nugget, and we want to jump on it, we want to hang on to it like a dog with a bone. And that's not the way it works, my friend.
Well, let me ask you, Carl, if you don't think it's a coincidence, what significance do you think that it holds?
Well, I mean, Sebastian went missing, and then on day 2, technically, Seth had his sister, as he claims, set up a GoFundMe. Who does that and why? I mean, he didn't know that he wasn't going to be, returned within a couple days. Why?
Are you asking me the question?
Yeah. If on day 3 or whatever, why would you have it?
All right, so I'm a behavior analyst. It has to do with body language and all the 6 channels, not in the coincidences of why they do what they do. And I wouldn't know that until I interviewed them.
On screen, a caller links date coincidences and an early GoFundMe to suspicion. Coincidence isn't causation. Fundraisers often launch early in missing person cases. Without documents, keep this as speculation.
Eva, I'll let you wrap it up. I'll say to everyone, please be kind to each other. Please keep Sebastian at the forefront of this conversation. Please understand that people gain biases by simple things in life, like interacting with people, even if it's for a short amount of time. Look at me. I interacted with him for 2.5 hours and I almost went against the grain and didn't disclose information. And I've never done that in 5 years. So that's a perfect example. Eva, I'll let you wrap it up. Everyone have a good night and be kind.
And biases will cause you to not unturn certain stones. It was fiery in here tonight, but it was fun hanging with you guys. Everybody be well.
And let's end the stream with everyone showing their green support for Sebastian, because this is who it's all about.
Yeah.
I'm gonna end with an intro, and I'm gonna pop those green hearts up on there.
On screen, the host recenters on Sebastian and minimizing bias. That's the standard we follow: victim first, sources over speculation. Bottom line, body language readings, microexpressions, and AI deception scores are conversation tools, not lie detectors. Polygraphs remain contested, so pass or refusal doesn't prove anything. Allegations stay marked unverified unless supported by public records. If you have actionable leads for TBI, share them directly. Keep the focus on finding Sebastian Rogers.